Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome to the channel. If you're back again, thank you so much for coming back again. Today we're starting something I'm really excited about. I've been planning this for a little while now. I've been doing some work on title screens and stuff like that, and it's genuinely really excited me, this topic. And it's called, the series title is called Who Is This Man? It's loosely based off of John Ortberg's book, which is called Who Is This Man? Which is a book just about who Jesus is. And I started thinking about all these leaders and all these role models we have in this world. Some incredible people. Maybe your favourite leader is Craig Rochelle. Maybe you like someone like Simon Sinek and all that he's doing. And some fantastic leaders. But the greatest leader of all time is often forgotten about. When was the last time you just read a book about the greatest leader of all time? His name was Jesus, by the way. And so what we're going to do in this series is we're going to explore some of the things that Jesus did, the way that Jesus acted, the way that Jesus spoke maybe. Some of the aspects and characteristics of Jesus that we find in the stories of Jesus that sometimes can be overlooked. And that's why today's title is called Doubtless Jesus. Doubtless Jesus, because Jesus never doubts. I started reading my Bible to find out a moment where Jesus gave in to doubt, but he didn't. He never doubted. Why didn't he doubt? Let's talk about that. Let's explore together why Jesus never doubted. I think it's really important that we first recognise that Jesus did have the ability to doubt. Some people will watch this and go, oh, Jesus didn't doubt because he's fully God. But he was also fully human, which meant that he had the tendencies to doubt just as much as we have a tendency to doubt. In this paradox where we see God meet man, there's an ability to doubt, but Jesus still doesn't doubt. Well, why is that? Let's explore that together. I've got two stories from the Bible which I want to talk about. The first story we find in Matthew. Let me just flick open my Bible. Should have been more prepared probably. Let's flick open my Bible to Matthew 14, verse 22, where we find a story about how Jesus started walking on water. You might have heard of it before, but it's really important. And when I read it, notice Jesus' lack of doubt. As soon as the people were fed, Jesus told his disciples to get on a boat and go to the other side of the lake while he stayed behind to dismiss the people. After the crowd was dispersed, Jesus went up to the hills to pray. And as night fell, he was there praying alone with God. But the disciples who were now in the middle of the lake ran into trouble, for their boat was tossed about by the high winds and heavy seas. Let's remember that some of these disciples were fishermen as well. So they knew the water. They've been in storms before, but then they've even now running into trouble. They're running into issues and they start to get worried. At about 4 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came to them walking on the waves. When the disciples saw him walking on top of the water, they were terrified and screamed, "It's a ghost!" Then Jesus said to them, "Be brave and don't be afraid. I am here." Peter shouted out, "Lord, if it's you, really you, then command me to come." "Come and join me," Jesus replied. So Peter stepped out onto the water and began to walk towards Jesus. But when he realized how high the waves were, he became frightened and started to sink. "Save me, Lord," he cried out. Immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and lifted him up and said, "What little faith you have. Why would you let doubt win?" Why would you let doubt win? Now, we always look at this story as like Peter doubting, and why did Peter doubt here? Why did Peter do this? But we've got to completely forget this idea that Jesus never doubted. And in this place where Jesus is walking out on the water, he's completely alone. There's no one to support him. There's no one beside him. He's stood in the middle of these waters, these waves and these winds that are terrifying everyone on a boat, and he's walking on the water without doubt. In the place of isolation, he doesn't doubt. No matter the storms that he faces, no matter how alone he could have felt, in that moment, Jesus never doubts, like Peter will do. And it's funny because Peter will doubt when he's in community. He comes away to Jesus to be with Jesus on the water and he doubts, but Jesus isn't about that. Jesus never doubts because Jesus knows who he is. Jesus is aware who the Father is. And because of this connection, Jesus is so aware that whatever's going on, this storm that's around him isn't going to hurt him because of who he knows and who he is. I want to challenge you today. If you feel like you're in that place of isolation, walking out onto the water, who are you? Because I'm a child of God, which should mean then that when I walk out onto the water, I don't need to be afraid, that I can actually follow the example of doubtless Jesus and not doubt what's going on around me is going to affect me because I know who I am. The second story, another storm on some more water. This one though, we're going to Mark. In fact, we're going to Mark 4 verse 35. It says, later that day, after it grew dark, Jesus said to the disciples, let's cross over to the other side of the lake. After they had sent the crowd away, they shoved off the shore as he'd been teaching them from the boat. And there were other boats that sailed with them. Suddenly, as they were crossing the lake, a ferocious tempest arose, with violent winds and waves, and they were crashing into the boat until it was all but swamped. But Jesus was calmly sleeping in the stern, resting on a cushion. So they shook him awake, saying, Teacher, don't you care that we are all about to die? Fully awake, he rebuked the storm and shouted to the sea, Hush! Calm down. All at once the wind stopped howling and the water became perfectly calm. Then he turned to his disciples and he said to them, Why are you so afraid? Haven't you learned to trust yet? But when they were overwhelmed with fear and awe and said to each other, Who is this man who has such authority that even the wind and waves obey him? So we have Jesus in the middle of a storm who doesn't doubt when he is alone, but then stuck into community when everyone else around him is doubting. We find Jesus doesn't doubt as well. I think it's really important because we always say our atmosphere, the places where we are, affect us. We have to be careful where we stick ourselves, because if we stick ourselves in a bad place, in a bad atmosphere, in a bad friendship group, we find that ourselves, we start to get affected by that. In Proverbs it says that good counsel is a good thing. When you find good counsel, you surround yourself with good people who hold you up. It's a good thing. Jesus finds himself in this position of being surrounded by doubters, but it's a good thing because he still doesn't doubt. The example here is no matter what position, no matter what atmosphere you find yourself in, don't doubt. Two stories of how Jesus never doubted. The greatest example that we could ever have. So my challenge to you today is, whether you're alone and you feel like you're walking on the water by yourself, are you going to trust who you know you are in Christ and not doubt that the wind and waves around you are going to affect you, but know who God is and God is protecting you? Or whether you're in a place, an atmosphere, a situation where everyone around you is doubting and it's dragging your soul into this doubt, are you going to stand up and say, no, I know who I am. I'm going to follow the example that Jesus set me, and no matter what people around me are saying, I'm going to trust that he is good. Which one are you going to choose? Are you going to choose to doubt and allow yourself to doubt, or follow the example of the doubtless Jesus? Thank you so much for watching. Be blessed and be a blessing, and make sure you tune in next week as we continue this series, Who is this man?